Hello and welcome. On this episode of our Action Coach Business Spotlight series, I'm excited to be joined by James Le Barrie, President and CEO of Beyond Marketing. James, thanks so much for joining us. I hope that you're doing well today.
Matt, I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure. James, as the CEO of Beyond Marketing, a journey I think you've been on for a little bit over 12 years now, having come to the US for golf interests and making a stop along to build a multi-million-dollar skydiving business to then launching your Beyond Marketing. Tell me a little bit about that story and kind of how we ended up where you are today.
Sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, Matt, I have had an interesting journey, and I feel like one of the luckiest people I know because I've been able to work in my passions. I was a golf professional. I came to the US as a result of golf. I got a golf scholarship locally, for those that are familiar with Charlotte, at Queen's College, then, now Queen's University of Charlotte, and then turned pro. And then shortly thereafter fell into the world of skydiving. Huh, no pun intended. And
Ouch.
just uh, had this real passion for marketing that I injected really from my background being raised in the Caribbean. I've always believed that, or what I've learned in hospitality is that word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing. And the most complete form of marketing is when you take a word of mouth strategy and blend it with a digital marketing strategy. One really can't go without the other if you're going to be fully effective, depending on the type of business that you're in. But really, I have yet to find a business where that doesn't apply. So at the end of my tenure of almost 10 years at Skydive Carolina, year over year, we were doing extremely well financially. But internally, I was really struggling. I sometimes imagine the analogy of being so burnt out and being so sort of almost dead inside, where I was wanting to run naked into the woods, going, I just can't do this anymore because the culture that I created was so toxic. Uh, in retrospect, in that period of that 10 years of business success, yet personal dissatisfaction, it was my fault because I was purely focused on filling skill set needs and not thinking about who you are is really almost more important than what you know.
Mhm.
And I that was not something that I learned in business school. You know, it's accounting, it's the bottom line, it's the and not a lot was I didn't give a lot of thought to the soft skills in addition to the business skills because you need a team. So when I went running off into the woods and I knew that this was it, I wanted to start a marketing agency, which was audacious at the time because it was just me. And in order to prepare for this, I lived for an entire year in very low rent housing to save up enough runway to try and give this thing a shot. But a pivotal moment in this journey happened when I resigned uh, from the job I was at Skydive Carolina, and was going to travel home to work on this business plan. And then something very serendipitous happened. I was in the Charlotte Douglas Airport and I saw Fortune magazine's top 100 places to work. And that really called out to me because, hey, I want to work at a great place with a
Mhm.
very rich culture. So I picked up that magazine and I leafed through it. And one of the companies presented was Zappos, which, you know, has had its limelight. It was really the Cinderella story of business, but I really experienced it firsthand, but through a very cynical viewpoint. After reading everything in that magazine, I thought spontaneous conga line dances in call centers, that does not happen. So with my cynicism, I, cast the magazine aside and I connected next in Miami and I went to the airport bookstore there. And I happened to see this book entitled Delivering Happiness by the author Tony Hsieh. And I thought, delivering happy, well, I want happiness. So I picked up that book, leafed through it, and I saw in the forward that this was written by Tony Hsieh, is the CEO of this obscure business that I just learned about called Zappos. So I was like, wow. Okay, the universe is speaking to me. So
More than coincidence.
seemed that way. So I picked it up and I couldn't put this book down. I mean, it was one of those, this book is speaking to me. And I, page after page after page on the plane, just, completely fixated, going, yes, yes, that's me. That's me. That's me. I did that. I made those mistakes. And so I thought to myself, in the audacity of starting my own company, I want to be like this company. But I was so convicted and I didn't want to suffer fools gladly that I decided that I would go to Zappos. They had a program called the Zappos Insights program, where essentially you're with HR at Zappos for 3 full days. And with a little bit of nest egg money that I had to seed my business, I decided, hey, I'm going to drop a few $1,000s of it. I think all in all, it was about 8,000. I mean, it was not cheap. And this is back in 2000 or spring, January 13, maybe 14, and flew out to Vegas. I got to meet Tony. I got to pick his brain. I got to wander the halls of Zappos and speak unfettered to many of the employees there. And I came away from that with so many rich stories. So many I would love to share because what I learned was just so invaluable. But the core thing I learned was that this organization is operating by a set of values. And it is not what we typically see where, hey, we need to have a mission statement and a vision statement and core values put away in a 3 ring binder that is only brought out when there's a new hire brought in. The values were everywhere. It's on the packaging. It's in the stairwells. You name it. It's on the security badges. It was a living, breathing document. And I thought, not that they're perfect by no means, but this was their North Star. And so I returned in my little 2 car garage and I painted a black chalkboard, chalkboard paint. And I wrote out my core values in my business of one at the time. And I just said, I want to remain true to this because I don't want to experience what I have experienced, which was, business success at the death of my soul. I want to create something where I can hopefully hire a team where who you are is more important than what you know. I want to enjoy going to work every day. And I want to work with clients that maybe see things the same way I do. And another interesting study that I did at that time is I wrote out who are the companies that I'm actually loyal to. Like I love Costco, Matt. I'm ask any of my friends. And when you start digging into the weeds of Costco, why they have such low employee turnover and such loyal fans like myself, they're a values-based company. And I started writing down all the other companies that I'm really
I
interested
think
in.
of Chick-fil-A as an example.
Another one,
Yeah.
so they're all values focused.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so that's has been really the foundational core of our business, that we have a direction. When I make a mistake, if we onboard a client, I'm like, ooh, it's not going well. It's very transactional. And I go, oh, I ignored those signs. I knew in my gut that that was the case. And when I look at my core values, I go, oh yeah, I, I didn't stay true.
And
So
that,
that, yeah.
go ahead.
No, so I mean, that's really has been, I
Okay.
think, a key foundation. And for business owners that are listening, if we all have values in our brains, but if you're going to set expectations for people, they need to know what's in your brain because then everyone's working from a level playing field. So,
Absolutely. Working with clients and talking about building a winning team. And I think the culture there is the fabric or the foundation, that you talk about kind of staying true to. It's those guardrails. And so we talk about strong leadership, obviously, is one that's, not only infectious, but it's one that provides a clear vision and sets the rules of the game so that people know what parameters they can play within, but it does encourage risk taking as well.
mhm,
That allows them to operate within those parameters, but that those parameters are not so confining or limiting that it prevents, our subconscious creativity from being able to flourish. Then the
mm,
fact that they are 100% involved and engaged, and everyone is expected to be active and participate. And I think about this story you've just shared, and early on when the paint on that blackboard in the garage was still fresh, and you're just so on fire for it, and the Zappos experience is still so fresh on your mind, you're just exuding that contagious energy around these. 12 years later, what have you found to be a mainstay, James, around keeping that culture alive and keeping those values as the core? What does that actually look like in application within
Mm.
Beyond Marketing?
Yeah, great question. I think the two things, there's a core value that we have as being an advocate. That is probably one that rings the most with me in terms of being an advocate for my people, my team, being an advocate for our clients. And and this is not a core value, but as a result of being an advocate, it has flipped the switch on my approach, which is in business, we think about growing. We got to grow, we got to grow, we got to grow, we got to grow. And I'm a little bit the opposite. If I can be the advocate and do right by my clients and by right by my team, the financials usually take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a reverse approach as opposed to just focusing on I've got to make these quarterly figures. I get that, and that's important for the help for growth. But I've never focused on that. I've just focused on doing right, and if we do our jobs well, people will talk about us. The referrals do come, and I think we're appreciated because not everybody that calls us is a right fit for us, and we are. Because I'm thinking again about our values and taking care of our team, I don't want to make the wrong decision with working on someone that just wants to throw maybe money at us. But ooh, it's transactional. It's I need results. Well, yes, of course, we want to give you results, but not at the cost of our mental health. And I don't want to make it sound like we've got 10 million in the bank and that we can be just, so selective. It's not like that. And we don't have 10 million in the bank. Uh, but it's just this thought process of in the scheme of life, life is so incredibly short. I am going to be 48 this year. I was 28 2 minutes ago. Uh, what is all this worth? I am grinding as a business owner, but I don't want to sell my soul in the grind.
That's right. And I think that that's you and I talked about a little bit earlier on in the prep was around this concept of a shift from from success to significance. And
Mm.
this shift in mindset from our 20s. I just turned 48 on Sunday. So you and I are on the exact same lap, just a few car lengths apart. And over that 25 years of a successful career, and one I'm very thankful for, and the opportunities that have been afforded to me, and the mentors and the challenges that have developed the tenacity and the know-how to navigate complex situations and find things that deliver the results. But in talking with business owners, this concept of kind of the difference between a focus on the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and really on the front end, focus more on the KPAs, which in this case could be key performance advocacy for your world, but key performance activities, meaning what are the things that we're doing and what are those actions rooted in as far as connected back to our why as a business. And you've talked a lot about value, and I think marketing especially is your ability to help somebody understand their unique value proposition or their UVP. And it's interesting to me that your UVP is the ability to help a client in branding identify that, but your values are what have made you uniquely successful in a business that's very saturated. Marketing is extremely saturated, it's very competitive. Has that spurred any thoughts with you just in the connection between how you run your business and the values based focus with that selectiveness that might leave some insights for those that are struggling to say, I got into this for a reason, but I've kind of lost that. And how do I get back? Is it too late? Can I
Yeah.
still form a culture in a business that's toxic, or do I have to leave? I mean, these are things that are coming to my mind. What are your reactions to any
Great
of those?
question. I mean, for those listening that are not happy with their current culture, it's never too late. I think the activity of taking a moment to write down what's important to you. And I often say your business is like let's personify it. It's like a child that we're all growing. And what personality do we want that child to have? How do we want that child to interact with others? Who do we want this child to have friends with? And uh, identifying those values or what you want for your baby, your business, is a challenge because once you identify the characteristics or the values of your child, now you have to parent. And so I think the sobering thought here is once you identify what it is that you want, then you have to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions are difficult because if you have team members that are making the culture toxic, you must remove them from the environment. I work with some types of clientele where the job pool for a very specific skill set is limited. And so they're being held hostage by keeping employees because they're like, oh, I don't know if I can bring in enough revenue without them, and they're very hard to replace. And I would just say, don't compromise, don't compromise. But uh, in order to get the culture that you desire to generate that happy place, it has to start with what is most important to you and taking a step away from your business to look at the big picture and go, what do I want? And I know that's easier said than done, but you just have to start. And then once you put that on paper, you start getting clarity. Oh,
Hmm.
this person, um, that type of thing. One thing that I'd shared with you before we recorded, Matt, is I have hired people on this team that know nothing about the job I need them to do. I truly have embraced who you are is more important than what you know.
Hmm.
I've hired folks that have never worked in an agency environment before, but because of their attitude and what the energy that they bring, they can be taught anything. And this is the rub where it really meets the road if you want to build a positive culture. Is this doesn't make business sense to hire someone that doesn't have all the skills that you need. The short term pain of training and hiring before you can get a return on that is painful. But the long term of having amazing human beings, well, once they grasp what it is that they do, they thrive. That's been my experience.
Absolutely
So
agree.
never,
Yes,
never too late.
never too late. And the interesting thing too there that you made me think about with respect to that vision, I think that one of the things that's a theme in your life is congruency, right? In that your faith, your fitness, your family, your financial or your work life, there's got to be some balance there. And so you had a business previously with skydiving where things were, from a KPIs, looked really, really good, profitable, good margin, good revenue growth, consistent management of expenses and variable costs, and all the things on paper look good, but something didn't feel right or left you feeling less than what you thought those results would leave you feeling, this sense of cresting Mount Everest. In reality, you're still in the valley looking up at it, thinking, this doesn't feel like what I thought that was going to feel like. And so many business owners that we work with start with a vision, and then the day to day grind and just the routine of it seems to become the routine becomes the comfort, and the discomfort that caused someone to start a new venture, adventure, business line, or whatever, their connectiveness to that original vision gets lost. And so, one thing that you've done, and I think you even shared with me, and I'd love to come see it soon, is it's even on the walls. It's apparent, it's in front of you, and where our attention is, our ambition follows. And so the point I'm trying to get to in a fairly wordy way is that those core values, when you have the clarity of creative thought and you're not in the day to day grind, it's very, very important in business planning, whether you're in the middle of that journey or you're at the start. Obviously, at the start makes it a little bit of a shorter path, hopefully. But many businesses now behind us, right? We learn those lessons sometimes the hard way. but taking the time to have clear vision, mission, and purpose, to understand the success formula is that our dreams times our goals, plus our learning, because we're not everything we need to be, but we have to become something, we have to believe something, we have to be that individual that can attract those type of results, to have the clarity to say, okay, well, this is the plan to get the things I want. I'm going to do now the things I need to do to have that success. But if those outcomes are incongruent with your wants, it's back to those key performance activities of, well, what are we doing? How are we leading? Are we the mainstay? You even said to me, I think, as we were kind of queuing up about, I don't know it all. And just having that discipline of that lifelong learner. And as a team, you're in it together. We're all striving for it. I'm not the template, right? Like, we're all striving to put the customer first every time. And so in the midst, case an example, in the midst of a difficult conversation, and everybody in that conversation is internal to your organization, someone sometimes has to be the one to say, wait a minute, are we putting the customer first? Like, yeah, that's the simplest fix. Or yeah, they wouldn't know that we did that and we could probably get it. But are we putting the customer first? Are we acting with integrity? Are we demonstrating these principles in this conversation to the benefit and advocacy of our client, or are we doing it for the betterment of the P&L? And that's that gut check that we have to stay true to, that North Star, right, of success isn't really, it's the success of someone else, and in that we can find our own. I hope that resonates with you, but that's what I've gotten from who you are with what you've shared with me, and it's encouraging to me. And I know that that's paramount to the fabric of a positive work culture, is one that's pure in intent and is persistent in pursuit, but it's a team effort, and it's flexible, right? It evolves. Thoughts as
Matt,
we kind of think through that body of culture. It's a relentless pursuit. It's kind of the special sauce that takes an organization from where they are to where they want to be and keeps them in a leadership position against the pack, but even as they rate themselves against themselves, because you're constantly stretching. James, any thoughts on those comments as we
Matt,
try to
yeah,
bring it home?
I would love to bring forward this point, and I want to key in on what you said. Clarity is key,
Okay.
but as you go through the journey of building a business, it is easy to get lost in the grind, particularly if you are early in the start of the business. And even if you're a 10, 20, $30 million, the CEO can get lost in the weeds. And I think it's very important that while I have the clarity of the North Star, and that's important, as a CEO or business leader where the decisions lie with you and you're under a lot of pressure, self-awareness is key. Because when through the journey of the business, there are highs and lows. And for our listeners that cannot see me, I'm showing sort of a graph. You go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, and with that is your
Mm-hmm.
cortisol, and with that is your stress. And it's important to have good self awareness to recognize that you are going through this up and down roller coaster. And ideally, you don't want to be reacting all the time, but try to be proactive. Okay, that sounds great. That's 7 habits of highly effective people right there. But how do we put that into practical? And one thing that has been key for me in terms of seeing the forest from the trees is to get away from my business. I watched Bill Gates on the documentary, and regardless of what you think of Bill Gates, he does something very intelligent. And he goes on what's called Think Weeks, where he gets away for a week and reads and thinks and writes. And I watched that and I said to my wife, man, I would love to be able to do that. And she said to me, well, why can't you? I said, well, I'm way too busy. Uh, you know, I'm running a business. And she said, are you busier than Bill Gates? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
definitely not.
Oh.
And so 3 times a year, I get away from the business for 1 week. I'll get an Airbnb in Asheville or somewhere nearby, not terribly expensive, usually near water. I like to have water flowing. And I just like to read and I like to think and get away from my business to see the big picture. Additionally, I think it's really important. There's a concept that I've been talking about called being a business athlete. We have to treat ourselves as if we are athletes, not just, responding to everything. We're trying to grow our business. So I need to sleep well. I need to eat well. I need to
Mhm.
make sure that I'm present each day. But if you are training for the Olympics in whatever sport, you don't train hard every day in, day out, 12 months a year. It's like it's been a badge of honor in entrepreneurism that you work and grind all these hours. That is that we are not the Gary Vaynerchucks of this world. That is a special breed of entrepreneur there. But I can say that just as an athlete needs to rest, we need to rest. Just as we need to get away from our sport or our business, we need to do so as well. So I just want to encourage those that are listening that are in the grind to make space, because if all you're doing is responding, and it's just a fast-paced way of loathing your job or your position, because we're in the position of responding and trying to deal with the bottom line, and cortisol's up and down, and need to have self-awareness to go, for me to be my best self, I need to treat myself like an athlete. I need to get away. I need to think, that type of thing. So that's been really key for me. Do I have all this figured out, Matt? Nope. Still on the journey, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm figuring out some things on the way.
Absolutely, James. Well, thank you for sharing those insights. And for those listening, as we share our own personal journeys, I guess, as James asked, are you busier than Bill Gates? If your day to day activities are not getting you the results that you're looking for, the outcomes that you're having in life, or the wants that you have are not what you're seeing come to fruition, would encourage you to reach out. Also, for marketing strategies, Jane, just talking a little bit about that here as we wrap. I mean, obviously, we know your marketing company, but just if someone has a need, your ideal client, kind of your core services, anything you would share, and just the best way to get a hold of you.
Great. So typically, the majority of our clients are usually 5 million on up, but we do a lot of consulting to try and assist uh, uh, younger entrepreneurs, if you will, or those that are getting ready to start up, to help them with the roadmap. We've really discovered that there's a misunderstanding about brand and what brand is, which is perception. So we really talk about branding and breaking everything down, if you're B2C, by the customer experience, one judgment point at a time. So we offer website design, all your suite of digital marketing services, SEO, PPC, Google Ads, social ads. We have a great team of copywriters.
And the
So
website address for anyone looking would be
beyondmarketing.xyz.
all right, beyondmarketing.xyz. Some insights there. So, certainly, if you're feeling those results are incongruent with your wants and who you hope and aspire to be, then certainly understand your why, do some deep looking at who you are and what you desire, not just the wants and material, but in impact, experience, and relationships, and seek clarity. Breaking it down into bite-sized pieces by an inch, it's a cinch. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, says that our businesses do not rise to the level of our goals. They fall to the level of our systems. So 80-20 rule, get 80% of the business systematized so that the 20% can use that unique gift that you're given and the power of the person to drive your business forward and excel and achieve. With those things being said, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of our Business Spotlight series. And again, thank you, James, for making time to join us.
It's been an honor. Thank you, Matt.